been a whirlwind of a morning around the NFL, and things are heating up fast in Chicago. The Bears are making moves, some expected, some not so much, as they work their way toward finalizing the 53-man roster. We've got cuts, trade rumors, and some surprising updates about players that could shape how this team looks heading into the season. And let's be honest, whether you're a diehard Bears fan or just someone keeping an eye on how rosters are shaking out across the league, this stretch right here is one of the most unpredictable and intriguing parts of the NFL calendar. So let's dig into everything going on with the Chicago Bears right now. First off, more names are off the roster this morning as the team continues its push to hit that magic number, 53. 4 new cuts were announced, including a couple of guys we expected and one that definitely raised some eyebrows. Let's start with Ricky Stromberg. The center was let go, but could easily return to the practice squad. He's shown enough in camp to be considered a decent option for emergency depth down the road. Nothing flashy, but a solid technician who could be useful if injuries start to pile up. Then there's J.P. Richardson. He made some noise early in training camp with his shiftiness and solid hands out of the slot, and there was real potential there as a return man. But as the competition ramped up and other receivers began to emerge, he started to fade into the background. Still, there's a good chance he finds his way back on the practice squad, especially since his versatility and athleticism are traits you like to keep in the building. Luke Elam, the undrafted rookie long snapper, also got the axe. That move basically locks in Scott Daly as the long snapper heading into the season. No real surprise there, but it's now official. And finally, Tano Pasanyan, probably the biggest surprise of the batch. Not a shocking move, but definitely a bit of a head-turner. A lot of people had him penciled into their 53, and for good reason. The guy's experienced, versatile, and has shown flashes in camp. But here's the thing, he's a vested veteran, which means he doesn't go through waivers. That gives the Bears some flexibility. He could easily be brought back in a couple of days, especially if someone ends up on short-term IR. This is that classic roster gymnastics maneuver teams use every year to juggle depth without risking losing valuable pieces. Let's play out a scenario. Suppose Roscoe Johnson and Austin Booker are dealing with minor injuries, enough to consider short-term IR, but not season-ending. You can only stash 2 guys on that list without eating up roster spots. Let's say those 2 are the ones. The Bears could cut Pasanyan now, finalize the roster, place the injured guys on IR after cut day, and then re-sign Tano without risking him being scooped up. Makes sense when you think about it that way. It's not just about who deserves a spot. It's about strategy, flexibility, and timing. Now, beyond the cuts, we've also got some movement across the league that might just end up impacting Chicago. One name that popped up again is Cam Robinson. The Houston Texans are reportedly taking calls on the veteran left tackle. And the timing here is interesting. Just last week, there were reports that Arani Ursary had stepped up and might be the guy Houston wants to roll with at left tackle. That pretty much set the stage for Robinson being dangled as trade bait. And let me just say, this one feels like it can make sense for the Bears, depending on a few key factors. First, let's talk money. Robinson's salary cap hit would be manageable, less than $4 million. That's because the signing bonus has already been paid by his previous team. So, if you're trading for him, you're not absorbing that massive contract. You're getting a starting caliber left tackle at a pretty decent price. And while he's not an elite player, Robinson is steady in pass protection, which is something the Bears could use right now. Let's not sugarcoat it. Braxton Jones has had his ups and downs. He's a solid run blocker, sure, but his pass protection still leaves you holding your breath a bit too often. Cam Robinson, for all his flaws, might just be a better fit for what offensive coordinator Ben Johnson wants. Tackles who can block one-on-one in space without constant help. So here's the real question. Is Cam Robinson enough of an upgrade to justify a trade? And what would the cost be? Last year, Robinson was traded mid-season along with a conditional 7th-round pick in exchange for a conditional 5th. That's not a steep price. If Chicago can land him for a 5th, maybe throw in someone like Jordan McFadden for some guard depth on the other side, it starts to look like a smart, calculated move. This isn't about throwing picks around for the sake of headlines. It's about securing a more stable offensive line without breaking the bank or overpaying in draft capital. But again, and this is key, You only make that trade if you're sure he's your starter. No more rotating tackles. No more open competitions heading into the regular season. If Robinson walks in the door, you hand him the keys to the left side and let him do his job. Anything short of that is just more chaos at a position that's already seen enough uncertainty. Speaking of positions in need of clarity, let's talk pass rush. Because, folks, it's a problem. The Bears invested big money in Yannick Ngakoue last year and gave Montez Sweat a fat extension. But so far, the results have been underwhelming. Training camp came and went, and you barely heard Ngakoue's name. Montez Sweat showed flashes early, but in that final preseason game, both starters played multiple series and failed to register a single pressure. That's alarming. You cannot expect to win consistently in this league without pressure on the quarterback, especially not in the NFC North. We are facing pass-happy offenses every other week. So now, enters Darius Smith, veteran edge rusher. 9 sacks last season, still unsigned, but reportedly drawing interest from multiple contending teams. The question is, do the Bears see themselves in that contender tier yet? And if they do, why haven't they made a move already? Because from a roster standpoint, Smith is exactly what this team needs, an experienced, productive pass rusher who can take some of the load off Sweat and hopefully spark some kind of interior disruption. Right now, there's no reason not to make that call. And again, this isn't about overreacting to a couple of quiet preseason performances. This is about a trend. The Bears have lacked pass rushing consistency for years now. And while they've drafted guys, brought in vets, tried different combinations, none of it has really stuck. Darius Smith wouldn't fix everything overnight, but he'd bring instant credibility and a much-needed spark. You want to get creative with your blitz packages? Great. But you don't want to feel forced into it just because your front four can't win their matchups. That's when the defense starts to crack. Right now, the Bears are sitting at 66 players, not counting Jalen Johnson, who's still technically on a non-football injury list, but is expected to be activated soon. So, do the math. They still need to make 13 more cuts or roster moves before the deadline. Practice starts at 1 o'clock today. You'd think they want to be pretty close to final by then, but not all of these moves have to happen before practice. Some guys might go through the day thinking they made it, only to find out differently at the 3 o'clock cutoff. So here's the big picture. This team is still very much in flux. The roster is being molded in real time, with injuries, trade possibilities, and performance evaluations all playing a role. There's still uncertainty at multiple positions: edge rusher, offensive line, maybe even wide receiver. And the Bears are walking a tightrope, trying to balance youth, depth, and experience. What they do over the next few hours could say a lot about how aggressive they plan to be this season. Are they going all in, trying to surprise people with a playoff push? Or are they still focused on building slowly, prioritizing development and long-term roster health? With the clock ticking down to the final cut deadline, the atmosphere inside Hallis Hall is tense, calculated, and full of decisions that could ripple far beyond Week 1. What the Bears choose to do in these final hours, who they keep, who they let go, who they maybe take a chance on, will shape not just the opening day roster, but the culture and direction of this entire season. And this is where front offices earn their stripes. This is where coaching staffs put their philosophies on the line. Because trimming a roster down to 53 is never just about performance. It's about projection. It's about trust. It's about calculated risk. And this year, the Bears find themselves with more variables than most. One of the biggest questions hovering over this roster is whether this team truly believes it can contend right now, or if this is still a developmental year disguised as a playoff push. And that matters because it directly influences the kind of players you prioritize. If you think you're ready to compete now, then keeping veterans who can give you reliable play in Week 1 is the obvious move. That might mean hanging on to guys like Tano Pasanyan or even going out and grabbing a Darius Smith. But if you're still in build mode, trying to develop talent, stack experience, and build for the long haul, then maybe you lean toward keeping someone like Dominique Robinson over a more proven vet, even if the upside hasn't shown up yet. It's a delicate balance, and there's no perfect answer. Take someone like Roscon Johnson, for example. He's been banged up, but everyone around the building knows how highly the staff thinks of him. He's smart, he's tough, he brings leadership, and he's got that all-around game you want in a modern backfield. But if his injury lingers just long enough to force a roster decision, do you burn a spot on him knowing he might not be ready until week 2 or 3? Or do you place him on short-term IR and bring in another body temporarily, knowing you'll have to cut someone else when he's ready? These are the chess moves general managers live for. And in a room full of passionate, competitive men, it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are relationships. These are players who've given everything since camp opened, fighting for their football lives. Then there's the offensive line. The potential trade for Cam Robinson hangs in the air like a storm cloud. Not necessarily negative, but looming, heavy, impactful. Because let's face it, Braxton Jones, while promising, hasn't solidified that left tackle spot the way this team probably hoped. And when you look at what Ben Johnson wants from his offensive tackles, the ability to win in pass protection one-on-one without help, you start to wonder if Robinson is simply a better fit right now. Not forever, not even necessarily for the next 2 or 3 years, but right now, for this system, for this quarterback, for this season. Robinson isn't elite, but he's steady. And sometimes, especially when you've got a young quarterback who needs every bit of stability you can give him, steady is good enough. But of course, it comes down to price, both in terms of draft capital and cap flexibility. The Bears aren't going to give up a 3rd or 4th rounder for a guy who may not even be part of their long-term plans. A 5th? Maybe. And if you can package someone like Jordan McFadden in that deal, maybe sweeten it with a conditional pick, you start getting into realistic territory. Because here's what you don't want. You don't want to be sitting in week 6, watching your quarterback get hit too often, regretting not making the move when it was on the table. Let's talk more about the pass rush, because that remains the most glaring hole on this roster. It's not just about sacks. It's about pressure. It's about disruption. It's about forcing the quarterback into bad decisions, speeding up his clock, making the offense uncomfortable. And right now, the Bears don't have enough guys who can do that consistently. Montez Sweat has the tools, the length, the motor, the explosiveness. But it hasn't clicked yet, at least not in a dominant way. And Ngakoue, for all his pass production, has been invisible this summer. You can chalk that up to rust or to saving himself for the season, but it doesn't change the fact that this group lacks juice. Darius Smith gives you that. He's a proven disruptor. He's got a relentless style, and he brings a kind of veteran presence this defense sorely needs. The locker room could benefit from someone who's been there, who knows what it takes to create chaos up front. And you could argue that even if he's not the same player he was 2 or 3 years ago, he doesn't have to be. He just needs to be better than what you've got. And right now, that bar isn't very high. The Bears can't afford to wait around hoping someone steps up. Hope isn't a plan. Smith is sitting out there, training, waiting. The Bears have a cap space. The time to act is now. All of this ties into a broader truth. This team is still figuring out who it is. We talk a lot about identity in football. Run-first offense, aggressive defense, ball-hawking secondary, but the Bears at this moment feel like a team caught between 2 timelines. On one hand, they've made aggressive moves to signal they're ready to win now. Drafting a quarterback high, spending on the defensive line, bringing in veterans like Kevin Byard. But on the other hand, they're still full of young and proven players at key positions. Guys who need time, guys who need reps. And the roster decisions they make now will reveal which path they're truly on. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Jordan MAILATA, the towering offensive lineman who has captured the attention of NFL fans with his unorthodox rise from boxing rings in Australia to the gridiron in Philadelphia, is reportedly making waves once again, this time with whispers of a seismic shift in his professional journey. Sources close to the league hint that MAILATA is on the verge of leaving the Eagles, a franchise where he had become a cornerstone of the offensive line, to join the Chicago Bears. The rumor has sent tremors through both fan bases, as speculation mounts about the implications for the Bears' offensive strategies and the Eagles' line integrity. MAILATA's sheer size, agility, and football IQ have always been subjects of admiration, and the chatter around his potential transition suggests that Chicago sees him not just as a replacement, but as a transformational piece capable of elevating their line to elite status. Insiders describe a flurry of behind-the-scenes meetings, contract discussions, and strategic evaluations, hinting that the Bears may be orchestrating a bold move to assert dominance in the NFC North. MAILATA's presence in Chicago could redefine offensive schematics, drawing attention from media, analysts, and rival teams who recognize the magnitude of acquiring a player of his unique skill set. The rumor mill is running hot, painting a picture of anticipation and uncertainty around the Bears' next season. Fans and analysts alike are dissecting every aspect of this alleged transition, scrutinizing the potential ramifications for both franchises with obsessive attention to detail. MAILATA's departure from Philadelphia, should it materialize, would create an unprecedented gap in the Eagles' offensive line, forcing them to reconsider depth charts, draft priorities, and free agent acquisitions. Meanwhile, the Bears are rumored to be devising innovative schemes that capitalize on MAILATA's combination of size, speed, and technical acumen, imagining a line that can dominate in both pass protection and run blocking. The discussions swirling around this transfer suggest that MAILATA is not simply being added to a roster. He is being positioned as the linchpin of a tactical renaissance, the kind of player who changes the dynamics of games before the snap. Social media conversations, insider podcasts, and regional sports shows are abuzz with hypothetical scenarios, ranging from immediate playoff implications to long-term developmental trajectories. The fervor has reached a level where casual fans are suddenly studying offensive formations and lineman techniques, trying to decode the possible impact of this colossal addition. Even veteran commentators admit the speculation has rekindled an excitement reminiscent of marquee NFL trades from decades past. Every report, every leak, and every unnamed source feeds the narrative that Chicago might be on the brink of something spectacular, with MAILATA at the center of the story, potentially redefining what it means to have a human wall on the field. Rumors suggest that the negotiations surrounding MAILATA's move have been intense, with multiple parties involved in a delicate dance of leverage, confidentiality, and strategy. Team executives, agents, and league insiders are said to have engaged in protracted discussions over contract terms, performance incentives, and potential endorsements, creating an aura of high-stakes drama that has captivated observers far beyond Chicago and Philadelphia. The narrative emerging from these whispers paints MAILATA not just as an exceptional athlete, but as a pivotal bargaining chip whose presence could shift the balance of power in the NFC. Analysts speculate on how the Bears might restructure their offensive line, possibly pairing MAILATA with complementary talents to forge a unit capable of neutralizing elite pass rushers and opening lanes for running backs in unprecedented ways. Meanwhile, Eagles fans are reportedly bracing for the emotional and tactical void his departure would create, with local media framing the story as both a heartbreak and a challenge to the franchise's resilience. Every social media thread, every fan forum, and every sports radio segment has been dissecting the minutiae, from rumored training regimens to potential locker room dynamics, creating an environment where speculation is nearly indistinguishable from emerging fact. Observers note that MAILATA's combination of size, agility, and intelligence makes him not merely an addition to a roster, but a catalyst for an entire offensive philosophy, elevating the discussion from mere player movement to systemic transformation within the league. The buzz is palpable as insiders and fans alike wait with bated breath to see whether the whispers of this blockbuster move will crystallize into reality, potentially redefining MAILATA's legacy and the Bears' ambitions. The cultural and emotional dimensions of MAILATA's potential transition cannot be overstated, as a rumor has generated a surge of fan-driven content, speculative analysis, and conjectural storytelling across media platforms. Chicago supporters are reportedly imagining a rejuvenated offensive line, one where MAILATA's presence commands defensive respect before the snap, fundamentally altering how opponents prepare and react. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, discussions range from immediate tactical adjustments to long-term philosophical shifts, with some questioning how the Eagles will address both the tangible and symbolic loss of such a transformative player. This swirling environment has fueled comparisons to historic trades that reshaped franchises, and insiders hint at the psychological impact on teammates, coaches, and even rival players who must recalibrate strategies in anticipation of facing or losing MAILATA. The rumor ecosystem has become a self-perpetuating cycle, where every tidbit of information, however minor, feeds a narrative that merges hope, skepticism, and sheer fascination. Analysts dissect his footwork, hand placement, and athletic adaptability, projecting how these skills might integrate into a new system, while fans create hypothetical game scenarios imagining the possibilities. Every layer of speculation reinforces the perception that MAILATA's next move is not merely transactional. It is potentially epoch-defining, altering league dynamics and fan expectations alike. In the midst of this frenzy, the allure of uncertainty, combined with the promise of MAILATA's unique capabilities, has made this story one of the most talked about and eagerly dissected narratives in professional football today, with no clear resolution in sight. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.